NHL regular season recap tonight, 153, 13 games tonight, and we kick it off with a good old ass beating between two Atlantic Division teams, that being the Bruins and Ottawa Senators here. David Pastrnak with a hat trick, and this one largely powering the Bruins to victory. He scores 2 in the first, another in the third. In the second, Shane Pinto, Brazo, and Johnny Brazo, I think, and Brady Tkachuk all scoring. It's 3-2 Bs after 2, of course. Pastrnak with the hat-trick goal makes it 4-2. Boqvist makes it 5-2. And then Brazo's second of the game makes it 6-2. Kevin Shattenkirk, 3 points in this one as well. He was pretty solid. Linus Ullmark, 30 of 32 for a 938. While Jonas Korpisalo, 20 of 26. His typical mid-as-hell performance, a 769. Not very good at all. It's a 6-2 win here for the Bees. They maintain that first spot in the Atlantic. The Jets taking on the Rangers, and probably the game of the night. We get the matchup of Connor Hellebuyck versus Igor Shesterkin, which didn't disappoint, but wasn't maybe as good as it could have been, largely thanks to the Jets not getting a whole ton of shots. But regardless of that fact, they win it by a final score of 4-2. Mark Scheifele with a hat trick in this one. He scores 2 in the first, as well as Kyle Connor. The second. Alex Wenberg, the only goal for the Rangers there in the second period. Alexis Lafreniere would make it a 1-goal game with about 2 minutes to play in the third, but Mark Scheifele completes that hat trick effort on the empty net with just 9 seconds remaining. Hellebuyck was the better of the two goalies tonight, 38 of 40 for a 950. He continues to pad that Vezina resume, while Shesterkin just 23 of 26 and 885. Not his best night, but hard to fault him for this one. It's a hard-fought win for the Jets. They move into first for now in the Central Division. The Avs playing right now. The Rangers, of course, still in first in the Metro, despite the Canes winning tonight as well. 4-2 here for the Jets is the final. The Devils hosting the Penguins, and in the 2 games that Jake Allen has played for New Jersey, he has been very, very good. Both goalies faced 38 shots tonight. Allen stops 36 of them. Tristan Jarry stops just 33. It's a 5-2 victory here for New Jersey. Despite that, they are still behind the Penguins in the divisional standings. Dawson Mercer scoring the only goal in the first. Pettersson and Meyer both scoring in the second. And then the Devils kind of take over for real in the third. It's Alex Holtz, Dawson Mercer once again, and Timo Meyer once again, before Brian Rust adds one more to make it a 5-2 score to make it a bit more respectable, but that is once again how the score would stick. Again, Jake Allen simply the better of the two goalies tonight. The shots dead even. He was definitely the difference maker in this one, and of course very strong performances from both Mercer and Meyer. Pairs of assists from Palat, Nosek, Jack Hughes, Luke Hughes, Jesper Bratt, all guys getting 2 points tonight. So a good all-around performance here from New Jersey. They get a much-needed win by a final of 5-2. The Blue Jackets taking on the Detroit Red Wings, and it didn't look very good early on for the Red Wings, a team, of course, still pushing for that last wild card spot. They give up 2 in the first to the Blue Jackets. Zach Werenski and Alex Texier both scoring 2-0 Jackets after 1, but the Red Wings do bring it back in the second. Lucas Raymond, his 23rd of the year on the power play, and Mo Seider with his 8th, both in the first 4.5 minutes to tie the game up at 2. Those are the 2 guys you love to see getting things going for the Wings if you are, of course, a Detroit fan. And then in the third, it all goes back to hell. Marchenko scores early on to make it a 3-2 game, but with just 13 seconds to go, Lucas Raymond with his 2nd of the game, 24th of the year, to tie it up and force OT. And who but Patty Kane, Mr. Showtime, in overtime. His 15th of the season is the game winner here. James Reimer just good enough for the win. He has a 9-14, 32 of 35, while Danil Tarasov continues to struggle, 23 of 27 for an 852. This cannot be understated how big of a win this is for the Wings. I know it's against a struggling Blue Jackets team, but you cannot afford to lose these type of games when you're trying to make a push to the playoffs. So a big 2 points for them. Well done to bring it back and bring home the W. 4-3 in overtime is the final. The Flyers hosting the Maple Leafs, and it got pretty dicey late in the game for the Flyers here, but they end up getting this one done thanks to an early 3-goal push in the first half of this game. Owen Tippett scoring just 19 seconds in. Travis Sanheim less than a minute into the second makes it 2-0, and then with about 3.5 to go in the second, Morgan Frost makes it 3-0. But in the third, the Leafs kicked it in high gear. Willie Nylander just a minute in makes it 3-1. Tyler Bertuzzi halfway through the frame makes it 3-2, and suddenly everyone's hanging onto their seats seeing what happens here. But Scott Laughton makes it a 4-2 game. John Tavares does add one more with about 2 minutes to play to make it 4-3 once again, but Sam Ersson and the Flyers hold the gates down, and it's a 4-3 victory here for Philly, and a pretty big one at that. A lot of teams in the Metro specifically winning their games tonight, so needed big-time points for the Flyers, and of course, they take care of business against Toronto. Sam Ersson and Ilya Samsonov both facing the same number of shots. Sam Ersson stops 27 of 30. Samsonov stopping 26 of 30 in this one. 4-3 Flyers is the final. The Hurricanes taking on the Islanders, and it was a really strong first period from the Canes, and frankly, the rest of the game did not matter all that much. Seth Jarvis with 2, Martin Necas with 1. It's 3-0 Canes after 1. No goals in the second. Palmieri makes it a 3-1 game early in the third. Jake Gensel with the empty netter with 3.5 to go, and that was really it for this game. Pyotr Kochetkov was very strong, 30 of 31 for a 968. Sorokin, 30 of 33 for a 909. He was very good too, just no goal sport in this one, as is the case too often with the Islanders, but nonetheless, the Canes walk away with 2 points here, still not quite first in the division, and of course, the Islanders now going to be in a little bit more of a dogfight than they would like with regards to where their points are at, but they lose this one by a final score of 4-1. The Avalanche taking on the St. Louis Blues, and this one was powered by Mikko Rantanen. He has a hat trick in this one as well. 1 in the first, 1 in the second, and 1 in the third. Nathan Walker trading goals with him in the first. Toropchenko, Middlestat, and Shen also scoring in the second, and he gets the lone goal fittingly in the third. It's a 4-3 final here for the Avs. Justus Annunen, 30 of 33 for a 909. Jordan Binnington, 31 of 35 for an 886. The stats make it look worse than it is. He actually played a pretty solid game here as well, but the Avs take away a big 2 points there, now just behind Winnipeg for that first spot in the Central. And, of course, the Blues trying to stay alive in this playoff race out west, but it gets tougher and tougher by the night that they don't pick up 2 points. So we'll see if they're able to win their next one, but tonight it's a 4-3 regulation win for the Avalanche. The Predators taking on the Sharks, and this one got ugly pretty quickly. It was 1-1 after 1, Yossi and Marcus Granlund, Mikhail Granlund, Marcus, wow. And then in the second, Ferraro makes a 2-1 Sharks, and then a Zucker, McCarron, and Evangelista, and suddenly 4-2 after 2. And why not just throw 4 more on in the third? A second for McCarron, 1 for Jankowski, 1 for Forsberg, and 1 for Tommy Novak. It's an 8-2 final here for the Predators over San Jose. They outshoot them 40-20, literally 2-1. I feel bad for poor Magnus Krona. 800 save percentage, 32 of 40. UC Saros at 900, 18 of 20. Just a complete ass whooping here from the Preds against a team that's really not playing for anything. And, of course, the Preds still just extending that gap in the West. I think they're as close to a lock as you can get for a wild card seed at this point because they're not catching any of the top 3 Central teams, but I don't think anyone else is catching them either. So it's a huge win over a team that they should win pretty hugely over. I don't know. Sharks are really, really bad. They better get Celebrini or they're in shambles. 8-2 Preds is the final. All right, rapid fire session here before work. The Oilers taking on the Canadiens. Connor McDavid in the first, Adam Henrique in the second. Suzuki and Gouli tie it in the third, but in overtime, Leon Draisaitl is the hero. Sam Montembeault and Calvin Pickard were both pretty solid. Montembeault 29 of 32 for a 906. Calvin Pickard 23 of 25 for a 920. He was just slightly better, and it's good enough here for the 2 points for Edmonton. 3-2 is the final. The Canucks hosting Buffalo, and it was a tough game for the Sabres. They get scored on once early by Connor Garland and then again by Pettersson about halfway through the second period. It's 2-0 headed to the third, but Rasmus Dahlin tries to single-handedly scrap their way back into the game. He scores about halfway through the frame to make it 2-1. Elias Pettersson would score on an empty net with about 2 minutes to go, and then Dahlin would score again with 22 seconds to go to make it a 1-goal game, but just not quite enough to get the job done here. Devin Levi getting his first start in a while. He was pretty solid, 31 of 33 for a 939, while Casey DeSmith was not all that busy. He faces just 17 shots, stops 15 of them for an 882, but it is enough for the 2 points here. Canucks win by a final of 3-2. The Wild taking on the Ducks, and once again in a game where they just need to take care of business and not take a team lightly, they are capable of just that. A quiet first period, but a pretty heavy second period. 3 goals there by Minnesota. Hartman, Merrill, and Kaprizov all scoring, and the game is pretty much over from there. The Ducks didn't really have too many opportunities. Lucchini scored in the third, his second of the season, and that would be the last goal of the game. It's 4-0 here for Minnesota. Philip Gustafsson back in the net tonight. He was pretty solid, 27 of 27. John Gibson, meanwhile, the busier of the two by just a few shots, but only 28 of 32 stops for him and 875, just not good enough for the win. But of course, if your team doesn't score, it's pretty difficult to find a win. Nonetheless, Wild here 4-0 in a big win that they needed pretty badly. The Lightning taking on the Golden Knights, and the Lightning decided to help Minnesota tonight because they win this one. Marchessault scores the first goal, but then it's Cirelli and Duclair scoring before the end of the first. Brett Howden would tie it in the second period. Headed to the third, though, Braden Point scores twice. Nikita Kucherov gets the empty netter, and the only goal in the third from the Golden Knights is from Ben Hutton. It's a 5-3 win here for the Bolts. Nikita Kucherov, 4 points tonight, 1 goal, 3 assists. Braden Point, of course, with the 2 goals in the third period, a pretty big performance. And Andrei Vasilevsky, not fantastic, but good enough for the 2 points, 24 of 27 for him, while Aiden Hill stops just 16 of the 20 shots he faces. Another tough one for the Lightning. The Wild are certainly starting to creep up on them at this point. It's going to be a much more interesting race in the West than I might have anticipated, but nonetheless, the Vegas Golden Knights let this one slip away. 2 points here to Tampa Bay. 5-3 is the final. Final game of the night here, the Kings taking on the Blackhawks, and I gotta go, so we're just ripping through this. Laferriere and Foligno in the first, Gavrikov, Kopitar twice in the second, and then Deneau, Korchinski, and Lewis in the third. It is a 6-2 ass-whooping here. The same exact number of shots by both teams, 24 each. Mrazek just stops 18 of them, though. Cam Talbot stops 22. You guys can do the math. Cam Talbot was the much better of the 2 goalies tonight. It's a 6-2 victory for LA. So that's going to be it for NHL regular season recap. Night 153, I think. We'll talk to you guys tonight for, 3 games. None of them are all that big. Except, I guess the Caps play the Leafs. That's a big one. But aside from that, not really too much going on. But we will talk to you guys tonight.